I'm located on my hometown's from North Carolina.
I want everybody to have a job, but more importantly, I want them to have a career. I don't want them just to walk out and they've got a low-paying job that, they go, I can't even pay a mortgage. I want them to see a career past this, and that's what this is about. So I'm very excited to be here. Thank you.
Another thing I would say, I would echo what Senator Murray just said, but I love the fact that, when you told the story, when you get there, helping other veterans following footsteps. We're trying to model what you do here elsewhere. I mean, that's how good this program is. But, if you could make sure that you pay forward the folks who helped you in this program to tell your story, and they use social media. Every one of them, whether they do 3 years in our military or 30 years, will transition at some point. And when they transition, there is no greater place to transition than JBLM in our nation. As the Undersecretary of the Army, as the #2, who's basically the COO or the Chief Management Officer of our Army, I run the business operations to make sure that we're doing everything we can for our warfighters. And to see these soldiers and airmen and these troops that go through here and how they are embraced, not just in the public, but also in the private sector of these companies that were just in this room, that are doing fellowships to make sure that transition is much smoother, is really second to none. When I came back from Iraq in 2004, it was my second deployment, and I left Fort Bragg, North Carolina. I went back home. There was no transition assistance program. But because of Senator Murray's leadership on the Hill and pushing forward, taking care of these troops, to make sure that they have a place in the land, that they won't just have a job, but they will have a career, is something that is really transformed. And I will tell you, when you look at the bottom line of what it's done for our military, when we're asked to do more with less, over the last 5 years, the Department of Defense spent $4.6 billion in unemployment benefits. We have drastically now, because we're using this model, have cut that by at least 50% in the Army. And that is because of her tireless leadership and the professionals and the private sector community and companies like Amazon and Microsoft and Starbucks. They are, time and time again, scooping up these young Americans to go on and do great things within their organizations. So I just want to say it's
Secretary Murphy. We are delighted to have you in our state and to see the great things that we are doing here. You just said that when you transitioned out in 2004, there wasn't a TAP program. There probably was. It was about an hour long, and you weren't paying attention. But we have changed that dramatically, and that's why I'm so glad that we'll be here today. I want to thank everybody at JBLM, and obviously here the folks at Interstate Distributor for hosting us. As all of you know, I am the daughter of a World War II veteran, and I'm always humbled by the sacrifice of those who serve our country. And as the senior member of the Senate Veterans Affairs Committee, I'm committed every day to making sure that our country is there for our veterans and their families. There's a lot of aspects to this, from making sure they get the health care they need to accessible education, but I want to focus a bit on what we saw here today and heard, and that is a career for those who step off the base when they leave, so they have that opportunity to take care of their families and really use the expertise that they learned in the military. When companies hire veterans, we hear time and time again that what a great opportunity is for the company and for the veteran. They are great workers. Our companies here need great workers, and these people come in skilled. But there's often a difficult transition for them when they come out, because they don't know what jobs are available. Their resume doesn't have the right kinds of words, and that transition is always very difficult. So we are here today as a follow-up on some of the legislation that I passed in Congress, the Vow to Hire Heroes Act, that was a step in beginning this transition program being not just mandatory and listening, but a program that really works. And so I'm very proud of what we have here today. I wanted the Undersecretary to hear this. He knows that when we had a meeting before he was confirmed by the Senate, it was the thing that I said to him more than anything. We need to make sure that these men and women, as they leave the military, have a career. And what we're doing here at JBLM, I want to see happen across the country. So I'm delighted you're here today, and glad that you had a chance to hear from some of our great employers, as well as some of our members of the service who will soon be veterans, that are going to have a career for them when they come out. So thank you.
And that the mission really for JBLM is to make sure that those soldiers and airmen are focused on the Pacific. The majority of our forces in the military are focused and geared toward the Pacific right now. And we all know what's going on. You know, we have tens of thousands of troops in South Korea and elsewhere, and the aggression of North Korea is something that gives a lot of us pause. But you know, what isn't different is the fact that, you know, every one of these troops that are here, all 42,000 of them, love their country, and they live a purpose-driven life. And most of them are frankly millennials. And millennials are coming into the military because they want to be something bigger than themselves. And what Senator Murray's doing here is she's giving them an opportunity to continue to live a purpose-driven life. So she's not trying to get them just jobs, she's trying to get them careers. And she is pushing to make sure that they can find their purpose in great organizations, many of which are in this area, like Amazon, and Microsoft, and Starbucks, etc. And that's why our veterans, when they leave here, oftentimes will stay, the majority of them will stay in this area because they feel that connection. They feel that sense of purpose of being something greater than themselves.
Have you gotten any feedback from the men and women that are separating now about the program and how great it is?
Yeah. The senator and I, is it okay, I'll turn it back, okay. The senator and I just met with several dozen of these soldiers that are currently in, that are going through a fellowship program. And this is the type of initiative that Senator Murray's partnered with Governor Inslee and others to make sure that this transition program, they're doing an 11-week fellowship program where they're working at these organizations, these companies for 3 days a week at least. They huddle on a Thursday, and they're still part of in our ranks, but they're doing this transition where they're getting real live experience in these companies to see if it's a fit, to see what they want to do. And it's a competitive process, but they're going through it. The great thing that you're seeing in that is the fruits of the labor. These folks who are going to these companies are doing phenomenally well. I've talked to these soldiers, and let me tell you, they're getting promoted ahead of their peers, not because they're veterans, because they are team players. They take the initiative, they have the drive, they want their team to succeed, they want that entity, that new team that they're part of now, to do great things. You know, we joke in the different services, the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, you know, the Army, as you know, is America's varsity team. But, you know, we joke and we kid with each other, but at the end of the day, when we get there, we want to help our brothers and sisters follow our lead to make sure they have a landing spot, that they can also do something great and be, you know, have that purpose-driven life. And it wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for the leadership of Senator Murray.
I want to emphasize one thing. We do this because these men and women served us, and we want to make sure that when they get out of the military, that they have a career ahead of them and continue to be giving back to our country in a way that's important to them and their family. But the Secretary mentioned a really important statistic, and that was the cost we were paying as a country for unemployment prior to getting these programs started. It was
$4.6 billion.
$4.6 billion every year for unemployment insurance for our military who were coming out and needing to be on assistance. We have reduced that to?
This year, the Army was 242, last year, 242 million.
So we have reduced it dramatically. And that saves taxpayer dollars, but it also is really important to the military who wants to make sure that we are using our resources wisely. So it's good for the soldier and their family, it's good for them as a career, but it's also good for taxpayers, and so I'm very proud of that.